In a capitalist society, if something keeps happening, odds are there's money behind it. So where's the money behind mass shootings and police killings? Professor Richard Wolff breaks it down. Check it out, leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Richard Wolff, the Economist, world-famous economist, co-founder of democracyatwork.info, the author of numerous books. His latest, The Sickness is the System, When Capitalism Fails to Save Us from Pandemics or Itself, also now available as an ebook. democracyatwork.info, rdwolf with 2fs.com, and you can tweet him at profwolf, Profwolff. And Professor Wolff, welcome back to the program. It seems to me that in a capitalist society, when something that is intuitively wrong keeps happening over and over and over, and particularly in bigger and bigger ways over time, that there's money behind it, that there's economics behind it. And I'm wondering your thoughts on the economics of mass shootings and police shootings. And I realize those may be two separate things, but you know, your systemic analysis of capitalism and of our society, I would love to hear your take on those topics.
Okay, I think about it a lot, like I'm sure most Americans do, watching these horrific headlines over the years, and as you say, getting worse. Here is the way I look at it through a lens of economics. We have a very large industry in this country that produces guns, ammunition, all the paraphernalia that go with having weapons. I'm not here talking about people who have weapons because they like to go hunting. That's a very old tradition in this country, and that was not, for much of our history, associated with anything like the mass shootings that we have witnessed in recent years. So here's my take. That industry saw an opportunity to grow beyond the people who are either into marksman-type activity or into hunting, to open up a great new field for profitable sale of guns, ammunition, and so on. And they approached advertisers, as capitalists always do, to help them grow, build their market. And what advertisers always do is try to link the product that's paying their bills to something that human beings need. Let me give you a simple example. You produce soap. It's a very pedestrian sort of thing. But if you can do a lot of advertising suggesting that the use of your particular brand of soap will do wonders for the sex life of anybody who takes showers with that soap, you may be able, and history shows us you will be able, to generate a great new demand for your soap by people who are concerned about their sex life. In this case, the guns and ammunitions people, together with the advertising industry, two profitable industries, came up with a doozy. They would fund something called the National Rifle Association and other kinds of public events, institutions, and so on, and they would link the ownership, the purchase and ownership of a gun to being somehow safe, to being somehow secure, to being somehow immune to the dangers and troubles that everyone was feeling in the United States as our economic dominance was undermined, as the welfare and standard of living of our working class was undermined. When you felt everything was falling apart, you could feel a little safer if you just bought one or maybe five weapons and put them on the back of your pickup truck or in a case in your house that other folks could see, and then you could shoot it occasionally to convince yourself that you were good at this, or wear it on your belt to show how safe you were 24/7. It was a genius advertising ploy, and it made millions of Americans who don't hunt and who don't care about being sharpshooters, it made them buy, store, maintain, repair, oil, and in other words, manage a storehouse, spending money they probably could not afford and certainly would have had better uses for than simply having these weapons. And then, of course, we have to put that together with the fact that we live in a country the United States, which has more military bases around the world than any other country, which is normally engaged in multiple wars. To date, for example, in Afghanistan, we're still there. In Iraq, we're still there. In Libya and Yemen, directly or indirectly, we are involved. In Syria, we are involved. Within a few weeks of the new presidency of Joseph Biden, he had dumped a drone attack in Syria, killing people. The idea that these weapons are ways of solving problems, that's the contribution of our governmental apparatus. But the real economic core is a very smart, profit-making advertising strategy that the arms producers, the so-called sports arm producers, came up with decades ago. And the National Rifle Association is basically the public face of this kind of promotion, that you will be better off, more secure. And of course, this has to drown out the hard reality, which is that the United States has more gun violent deaths than any other country on the world. And not only that, but we're off the chart. The numbers for the United States are, in some cases, hundreds of times larger than in places like Germany or England or a whole host of other countries.
I would add to your advertising shtick masculinity. I mean, the safety thing, I remember back in the 80s and 90s, that was a big sales pitch. You know, and
right.
You can stop the guy who's going to carjack you, and you want your wife to be safe. Have a gun in her purse. I remember those advertising campaigns. But now it seems like they have hooked up with you know, the whole militia movement, and now they're promoting this as, if you want to be a man, you got to carry a gun.
Absolutely. No, look, the American male, if you look at the statistics, has suffered even more in the stagnation of wages than women. Women have been fighting to get a bit of a better deal. They have narrowed at least the gap between male and female wages in the United States, but many of the jobs that were pushed overseas were unionized jobs in which males were predominant, for all the reasons, good and bad, that go into that. And so they've suffered disproportionately. And losing your job or losing your woman partner, if you have one, has associated over and over again with these mass shootings. People who have been really hurt in their personal life or their job life then have this gun, have this illusion that it makes them somehow manly and or safe, and they're going to push against what they see as a threat, and they have this gun, and the end result is the headlines that we see in this country in a way the rest of the world simply does not.
Yeah, and in the last minute we have, it seems to me that the economics of police shootings have to do with capitalism essentially creating a permanent underclass, and when that underclass rises up, you meet that with violence, no?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a terrible story. You can see it with children in school. If the teacher, even inadvertently, gives kids the idea that somebody in the class, for whatever reason, girls versus boys, non-whites versus whites, people who live in that neighborhood rather than the other neighborhood, or have that name rather than the other name, if there's an allowable outlet for your upsets and your frustrations, that's where kids will go. They don't mean to pick somebody. They're doing what it is that the environment somehow suggests. And we put police, overwhelmingly white, in the position of trying to keep the lid on the African-American or Hispanic or Latino communities. It's an impossible task, and it blows up in these horrible, unfair ways.